Welcome to Victini News. This is your host, Cuban. We are proud to welcome everyone back to Season 9 of the VDL. Our tier for this season is gonna be super low tier. You thought low tier was low? Well, we made it even lower. Today is episode 0, which will mainly include a short overview of the tier and then the Victini Power Rankings. Let's start with the format. As most of you guys know, format in Showdown is gonna be draft. Any other format will get you in trouble. Additionally, since we'll be doing Open Terra again, you will need to tick the box that says Terra Type Preview before challenging your opponent. This is to make sure that everyone knows what Terra is brought. If you challenge someone and forget the option, just write it in the Showdown chat. That is fine as well. As this is a very low tier and we have a lot of NFE mons in the draft itself, I want to remind everyone that you can only have one Eviolite on your team. You may use Thief, Switcheroo or Trick to steal the opponent's Eviolite, but when building your own team, only one Eviolite is allowed. If we catch you, you will be forfeited and will lose the match. For any additional rules, check out the Rules tab on the Victini doc. Now, we had a small change in our moderation team. Joining me will be a returning moderator and one of the doc wizards, Akshay. Akshay has been a long-standing member and moderator in the VDL itself, and it's great to have him in the team. And next to him, we will have our newest VDL moderator and the artist of Victini News, Hina. Last season, she managed to win Shaman and is now taking a break to focus on her duties as Victini mod. And not only that, we have 5 more additions to the Victini News team. You might recognize them from last season. I want to welcome Anon Victini. I am proud to see them join us after accepting defeat last season. But you're all waiting for the power rankings, so let's check them out. Presented by no other than Pangoro.
Welcome everyone to the Season 9 Victini Division Power Ranking. As a short disclaimer, this is the opinion of the Victini moderation team. Thus, we are asking you not to take it too seriously. Our opinions can be wrong and we accept that. Additionally, we have provided more information on the screen than what we will talk about. So feel free to pause the video and check and read it in your free time. But without further ado, let's start with Alikalkos and Boomburst Bergkamen. He went with a traditional Water, Fire, Grass core, using the Pokémon's Gastrodon and Talonflame for defense and Shiftry for offense. We really like the Talonflame Gastrodon combination as they cover each other's weakness perfectly. Additionally, Talonflame could work as a strong utility mon to boost the Terra Shifttree's offensive abilities. The team has solid hazard control and knockoff users and looks overall pretty solid. Our biggest issue is that both special defensive walls in our Creamy and Arboliva are weak to poison, so a strong poison special Pokemon could give Alikalkos a lot of trouble, especially if it has fighting or grass coverage moves. Good thing he has Salazzle, which would be a good Pokemon against him. To deal with this, he might have to run Assault Vest more often than he might want to. For Terra options, he has Shiftry, who we already shortly talked about. The Terra helps this Pokemon immensely and gives it the potential for more coverage, as its frail stats will most likely mean an offensive Terra all the time. Berserker, on the other hand, is a bit more flexible, with the potential to run defensive Terras, or Terra Steel Steely Spirit, as an offensive option. Both Pokemon can use the Terra in a very efficient way, so we think they are definitely a solid choice. Overall, this team is good, but as an unknown VDL user has commented on, it is a bit all over the place, with a Rain Sweeper in Kingdra, Snow and Sandslasher Lola, and Sun with Shiftry and Arboliva. Thus we have ranked it in the B tier. Our next coach is Pandemonium with his Scarlet Knights. We immediately spotted a very dangerous combination with Robombi and Typhlosion, as the webs can give Typhlosion a lot more freedom with items like boots or specs. Additionally, the Shaman can take several roles: offensive with Seed Flare, defensive with Leech Seed Sub, or utility. Defensive options are Registeel and Regirock, who in this tier can actually be hard to break, as they both have a massive 580 BST, a lot higher than the average of around 490 what most teams have. Even though the high stats help, their typing doesn't. This team is very weak to fighting types, as Robombi, Illumise, and Drifblim are the only resist/immunities, and none of them are known for their ability to take hits. As soon as Typhlosion and Shaman die, this team might struggle to put out any kind of damage, especially since Tatsugiri then has to step up to do any damage. Looking at the Terras, we have Electrode, who most likely will always be the Terra Captain. He is the fastest Pokemon, together with his Hisuian form, and can use the Terra to boost his electric moves or give him more coverage, making him a potential cleanup Pokemon. Be aware of Terra Electric spec Volt Switch spam. The other Terra is Illumise. If it ever sees the light of day, we expect this to run a purely disruptive set with Thunderwave Prankster. Maybe it will shine in this tier, but Electrode is just a better option. The team has some scary offensive potential, but its massive weakness to fighting moves makes it a bit easier to prep for, and thus we have decided to put it into the B tier. Up next is the Fighting Lendo Tees, with their coach Red Sox Alex. This team is very physically offensive, but has arguably two of the stronger bulky special types in Gudra and Glaceon, to give it a very strong offensive side. Incineroar and Mudsdale have the physical defensive side covered with Intimidate and Stamina, and could potentially give teams with mainly physical damage some trouble. Slowbro, Galar, Eviolite, and Electros are also very good defensive options that can in general be hard to break. Our biggest issue with this team is that it lacks speed, especially since it only has one Trick Room setter and no real other speed control. Additionally, the team lacks a true sweeper, with Lycanroc being the best option to come in late and clean up. This team will need some preparation to put their high damage dealer in a good position. Looking at the Terra Captains, we have Glaceon, which is honestly a hidden sleeper Terra Captain even in higher tiers. It has deceptive bulk that usually gets ignored due to its typing. But if it gets Carmines off and uses Wish to stay healthy, it has the potential to solo carry its team. It is a very strong Terra Captain. Frogadier, on the other hand, feels like a Pokemon that could use its Terra in maximum 1 or 2 games to catch the opponent off guard if he didn't prep for it. It has okay speed, but I think there are better 2-point Terra options. And as another user pointed out, the team has incredible potential. It has all the ingredients to make a very strong team, but it will need near perfect team building and preparation. If Alex can find out how to use his team to perfection, it could win it all. But for now, we have ranked it in the C+ tier. Coming from a potential favorite to our favorite, we have Nif and a dead droid, Driftblims. This is not moderation biased, but in our opinion, this team has solid speed, a solid balance between offense and defense Pokemons, and 2 incredibly good Terra Captains. Tentacruel and Vikavolt provide a slow and fast pivoting option to help their sweeper and fast hitters to come in. Sylveon is one of the strongest fairy types on the board, and with its wish support, it can help keep the defense alive. We think that the biggest issue in this team will come in team building. Nif will struggle to find the 6 perfect Pokemons, as his team would want to run 7 or 8 Pokemons all the time. As not fully evolved Pokemons are abundant in this season, knockoff users are very important, and this team doesn't really have the strongest ones. Looking at the Terra Captains, we have Colossal. Some may know I hate this Pokemon. I have drafted and dropped it after a few weeks, more times than any other Pokemon ever. In this super low tier, I have to say though, it might just be the best Terra Captain, if it can freely come in and Terra. It is horrible without it, but as soon as it has Terra'd, it will increase the difficulty for the opponent's team, thanks to Flash Fire and Flame Body, massively. Vigoroth, on the other hand, can single-handedly remove a Pokemon on the opposing team. Its access to Eviolite, Slack Off, and Terra means that he can just wall whatever his team needs him to wall. It won't come to many matches, but it is super underrated and strong. And all of these reasons are why we have ranked this team in the S tier. Continuing, we have Joe Mama and the Tennessee Titans. This team has a solid speed tier and good offensive mons in Flygon, Delphox, and Glastria. The latter having 2 different Trick Room setters to help it. Additionally, both Oricorio and Flygon are very dangerous setup sweepers thanks to Quiver and Dragon Dance. The special defensive side is getting carried by the Blissey, who should be able to handle most of what is thrown at it. This team still has 2 major weaknesses that could get abused. Number 1 are Stealth Rocks. A lot of his offensive mons are weak to rocks, and the removal options in Decidueye Hisui and Oricorio might not want to run Defog. So Jomama might have to rely on boots a lot more than he wants to. Additionally, the missing Steel type. It leaves his team vulnerable to one of the easiest tactics to pull off, with Terra normal facade spammers, fast U-turners pivoting around, and Pokemon who have decent speed and access to strong flying moves. This does bring us to one of his Terra Captains, the Decidueye Hisui. It is a very solid Pokemon, and should be decent in this tier, but because of how the team is currently built, it might get forced into the role of Team Mother. Defog, Terra Steel, with some coverage and synthesis to keep the team together. Once in a few matches, it could bring out its true form of a dangerous breaker with the support of Webs or Tailwind, but we think he is stuck with the above set. On the other hand, Chiabug only really has one job from the beginning: setting webs and be an annoying switch-in. It has deceptively good bulk, and with a slow pivot, it can come in, soak a hit, and pivot out to put the other Pokemon in a strong position. He can also beat the Steel type when the Decidueye is on vacation or doesn't want to. Overall, this team has some strong potential, good synergy, but the major issues puts it into B tier. Our next team doesn't care about defense at all. The Denver Flare Blitz and coach Lord Quall are running a very strong hyper-offensive team this season. This team has some Pokemons who can come in and immediately be an issue with their high damage output in Jolteon and Cypher, while the setup mons in Riverroom and Poltergeist can become uncontrollable after setting up once. Combining this with good hazards and screen setters, and basically every Pokemon having the option to pivot, makes this team incredibly hard to control. Being mainly focused on offense means that this team doesn't have many defensive options. In this case, Diancie, Alola Golem, and Bombardier. To help with that, Alola Golem does have access to Terra, and as another anonymous VDL user has mentioned, it will most likely have a defensive Terra, but you cannot ignore Terra Electric Galvanized Explosions, or Magnet Pull with a smart Terra to trap other Steel types. This is a solid captain, as often 4-time weak mons has something to compensate for their typing, and Terra nullifies this. Same goes for Cypher, who is the offensive Terra captain of this team. This is one of the strongest low-tier Terra captains that you usually can find on the board. It has solid attack, solid speed, and the Terra to get rid of its bad typing. This Pokemon can be very versatile thanks to its access to Eviolite and having Technician, when it turns from a strong sweeper into a deceptively bulky Pokemon who can still hit hard. Lord Quall has built an incredibly strong hyper-offensive team that won't struggle to put their sweepers in strong positions. The Terra captains are also both very strong and give his team additional power. Overall, this team definitely belongs in the A tier. Coming all the way from Shaman, we have Grixie and the Tidal Town Tyrantrums. He has built an incredibly balanced team that is ground weak but has Thwacky with grassy terrain to counter it. The offensive options in Inteleon and Pawmot can provide fast and solid damage, while the defense with Bronzong and Darkspawn can cause a lot of trouble to other teams, especially with the Wish support on Darkspawn. Having access to one of the best Trick Room Pokemons helps his slower Pokemons in Torkoal and Dragalge. What we identified as the biggest issue on this team is the reliability on Bronzong. It is basically the heart of the team, especially in the defensive area. If it gets defeated early, it could bring Grixie in a whole lot of trouble. Additionally, while the 2 damage dealers have a pretty good speed tier, the rest might be reliant on webs, as the speed isn't that good on other mons. And speaking of webs, let's look at the Terra captains, starting with Leviani. We aren't sure what this Pokemon will bring to the table besides webs, but it could surprise us if Grixie decides that he wants to run manual Sun team for a week with Leviani and Torkoal as its main offensive mons. But let's be honest, his other Terra captain Wishcash is just too good. In my opinion, this Pokemon is the best Terra hazard setter in the draft board. It has spikes, rocks, and access to Oblivious, which lets it ignore Taunt. Additionally, it has insanely good coverage on both special and physical side with decent stats. It is one of my favorite Pokemons for low tier. Overall, this team has incredibly strong synergy, All of these Pokemons work really well together and will be very hard to beat. Hell, it even made an anonymous coach of the Victini division want to trade his whole team with him. Thus, it deserves to be in the A tier. Continuing with CB Fries and the New York Low Kicks. While others go for balance and damage, CB Fries went for speed. His team is very fast, and even the two slowest Pokemons, Sandslash and Ursaring, have easy access to increase their speed. We think that the Monkey Dory pickup was incredibly smart. Not only is it a fast special sweeper, it could also put his own team in trouble if the opponent had it. Defensively, he has two very good options in Eviolite Duraludon and Uxie, with the latter also acting as strong screen setter, with pivoting to get the hard-hitting mons in Tauros, Paldea Aqua and Monkey Dory in. On the hazard side, he should be able to always get at least his stealth rocks up. In our opinion, the biggest issue this team will face is that it has no Dragon Resist. So Dragon types could Dragon Dance and Outrage without much worry, and put massive holes into this team. Fighting types also have a very easy time as soon as Uxie is removed. CB Fries will have to work around this, but he definitely has some options. Especially since both of his Terra Captains are solid choices. Houndoom is a solid offensive Terra Captain that can either boost his moves with Terra or run a Terra to make use of its Flash Fire ability. We doubt it will be running a Terra with defense in mind, but it can very easily support the other sweepers with his damage. On the other hand, Ursaring is extremely versatile, and Terra can turn it into a smaller version of Ursaluna. There's also no need for it to rely on Eviolite, which helps the Duraludon, as Ursaring can run Flame Orb Guts, Toxic Orb Quick Feed, and potentially many other sets. It's gonna be interesting to see how CB Fries will be using this Pokemon. This team is another strong team, though because of the small issue with the Dragon and Fighting types where it has options, we have decided to put it into the A- tier. We are staying in New York and check out the New York Hydreigons with Supreme Omega as their coach. His team has very strong hazard setters and a lot of strong defensive options in Rotom Heat, Quagsire, Eviolite Metang, and the Dunsparce, especially since most of these have ways to recover HP very easily. It will be very hard for teams to break Supreme's team, while he is slowly reducing the HP of the opponent's team. This will help to bring in his two offensive Pokemons in Flamigo and Gardevoir, one of the strongest fairy types on the draft board. Together, they can cover a lot of types and should be solid partners. But we will have to talk about the issue of this team. It is lacking a fast sweeper. Flamigo only has 90 speed, and they will have to rely on other Pokemons on his side to chip down the other team, so they can run Scarves to clean up. This will be especially troublesome for Supreme when he's facing a team who can bolt those two specific Pokemons. To help with that, he has two Terra Captains. Cryogonal is often just a one-dimensional spinner. The last kit chosen in higher tiers, mostly out of necessity than out of will. But this might be the tier it can finally show something. Its stats are usually mediocre, but are good in this draft board. And with Terra Blast, Freeze Dry, it should be able to cover a decent amount of Pokemons and typings. It's also pretty bulky on the special side, so we expect that Supreme could bring justice to this mon. On the other hand, here's Trevenant. Rumors has it the new owner of the VDL wanted this format to make people believe in Trevenant. And hey, if he can set up his own trick room and spam Terraghost Poltergeist, he might actually do an incredibly amount of damage and put himself on the board. I can't wait to see if this Pokemon can shake off fraud, or if it truly is the greatest Pokemon ever created. Due to its lack of offense, but good defense, we have put this team into the B tier. Our next coach is a VDL debutant with Redshirt and his Green Bay Pinsir. I'm gonna preface this by saying he has drafted strong individual Pokemons, who are often one of the best in their own position. Cyclizar is a strong spinner, Porygon 2 is one of the best special walls, and Typhlosion Hisui one of the stronger Choice Scarf mons. Additionally, he has some often underrated Pokemons in Lapras and Dracloak. But this team has no real synergy with each other. They're just gonna run a very predictable moveset that solely helps themselves. There's also no real knockoff resist, and that will be a move every opponent would want to bring, thanks to Porygon and Typhlosion. With that, we also feel like it misses a strong and fast sweeper. We do think he has picked some smart Terra options in Leafeon, who has the potential to put this group of individuals together and become the heart of the team, as it has solid bulk and thanks to its access to Terra, the potential to finish off opponents or prepare them for their teammates. While Dracloak, the other Terra captain, has a unique niche in low tier and thus also in super low tier as a Dragon Dance sweeper. We firmly believe that Dracloak is a great pickup and has the potential to steal a game if it comes to it. Even though it has, according to statistics, the best draft Pokemon in Grand Ball, we think the lacking synergy hurts this team. A lot of these mons also just sit on the field and don't really bring the team closer to victory. Thus, we have decided to place this team in C tier. Going back to a coach we have seen last season, we have Viking with the Oslo Okidokis. Viking went with a very offensive team that has decent speed and a lot of Pokemon who can hit hard. Probopass and Altaria are very solid defensive duo who cover each other's weakness. We also like the Cleaver for the 3 Stealth Rocks to give Probopass and Golurk one more move slot. Zoroark and Mimikyu make the prep for the opponent harder, as both of them give the opponent a unique issue to deal with. While Hitmonlee will sit there and threaten with his Unburden. But while the offensive side is solid, the team overall is very frail. If one of the 2 defensive options falls, or Viking is on the back foot, he might not be able to recover. He also lacks a solid screen setter, and other than Cleaver, lacks hazards that help his offensive team win. Altaria, as one of the Terra captains, will still be very hard to remove. In low tier, this Pokemon often ruins other teams with its famed Whirlpool Roost Perish Song set. It will be a very reliable team captain for Viking and will be a strong backbone of this team. Golurk, on the other hand, is a very interesting choice. He is usually, even in higher tiers, an annoying Pokemon to prep for, as he can easily take a hit and hits hard back. Giving him Terra will either make him harder to kill, and if he runs Ghost Terra, there are only a few Pokemons who will survive a Poltergeist. Can't wait to see it. This is a very offensive team, but it lacks a lot of the setup for its sweepers. Having only 2 real defensive options makes it a very flip-flop team, where it can win fast or lose fast. Thus, we've decided to put it into the B tier. Starting another Victini season, we have Drakeon and the Carolina Incineroars. He has a pretty good speed tier, as Neubern is the 5th fastest Pokemon on the board, and some very strong offensive options, especially Breloom, who could run Technician, Choice Bandit, Mach Punch every game, and it would not even be bad. With a lot of knockoff users and 2 pranksters, this team can handle a lot of stuff thrown at it. It also has good bulk with Magmortar, Poliwrath, Cloth, and Eviolite Magneton, the later being able to run Analytics Specs Volt Switch to throw out some massive damage. While it is decent on paper, this team doesn't have a real leader. They are all middle of the pack Pokemons, who aren't the best, but also not the worst. A Pokemon like Piloswine could easily murder 60% of this team. Drakion will have to check every opponent's team for Ice Shot, as it easily kills two very strong Pokemons from him. Hazards are another issue, as only Cloth can provide them. Tentacruel gets nerfed if it runs any type of status moves, thanks to its ability. But a bright side are his Terra Captains. Basculin has several different ways to be offensive, having both adaptability if it doesn't get the Terra, or Reckless for Terra Water Wave Crash spam. It could shine in a few games, and if Drakion wants to bring it with Eviolite, he will have to remember to bring it as a white striped version, as that is the only one where the Eviolite will work. Cloth, on the other hand, could become one of the strongest or hardest Pokemon to remove due to its access to Regenerator and a smartly picked Terra type. His only weakness is the special side of Cloth, but an Assault Vest could help it there as well. Overall, we're excited to see it in action as it looks to be a promising Terra Captain. Because a lot of these mons are mediocre, Breloom and Noivern aside, this team will be a lot weaker in the 6v6, as the power is shared around 10 Pokemons, not 7 to 8 mons like other teams. Thus, we have decided to place this team in the B- tier. It is time to bring some normality in here, with the Ottawa Ordinaries and their coach Lack of Interest. This team has a lot of strong points, fast and hard-hitting Pokemons at the top of the speed stat, while having Trick Room for the slower Pokemons. The hazard removal options are really strong, and some of these mons can just set up and win games without much resistance. Psychic Terrain will help against its biggest enemy, Mug Punchers, while also providing the team with a strong special attacker. Even being restricted to a single typing, this team covers basically everything any other team would want to cover. Obviously, being a monotype has its own issues. Fighting types would want to exploit this team, while ghost types remove the option for stab and a large chunk of these Pokemon's move pools. Hazards are also non-existent, with only Dunsparce having rocks. But on the Terra side, this team has one of the most overhyped Pokemons in this tier. The amount of times people have said that Tauros and its Paldean forms is insane makes me want to believe in them. Tauros has 110 speed and 100 attack, which puts it in the top half of the physical sweepers. With Sheer Force, Life Orb, it could throw out some massive Terra normal attacks, while Intimidate is a good option if it wants to be more defensive. We will see if it can hold the hype. On the other side, we have Knocked Owl. This would be the first one I've ever seen in draft, as it usually is not seen as a valid Pokemon. But Terra normal Hyper Voice with Tinted Lens or Terra Fairy Moonblast, it can turn a matchup around and threaten KOs. Overall, this is probably one of the best versions compared to its tier in the long list of Lack's mono normal teams. We firmly believe this is potentially a very hard team to beat, thus we have decided to put it into the A- tier. Let's look at our second coach coming from Shaman. They call me Gage. Him, not me. With his NC Noble Roar. This team will be interesting to see in action. It has two fast options with Ambipom and Galvantula, with the later having Sticky Webs. This team heavily favors Sticky Webs, and that alone makes a lot of the middle of the pack speed, like Zarina and Emboar, suddenly very dangerous. Additionally, Galarian Articuno is one of the best stored power users, thanks to its ability competitive stopping anyone from lowering its stats, and also having access to recover. There are also some decent support options with Fake Out on the Ember Bomb, Swallowed, and Wish Wigglytuff. As this team has a very obvious game plan, opponents might bring more boots or more removal into this team, which could be an issue. While Cloyster has Rapid Spin, most of the time Serena will have to remove hazards on Gage's field. It also lacks a strong special mon, as only Articuno is a true special Pokemon here. Emboar can do it, but would rather use its 20 stats higher attack. For Terra Captains, we have 2 Terra Captains. I myself was considering as well. Rampardos is a very slow mon, but a heavy hitting physical attacker. If you put this guy into Trick Room, he will start murdering his opponents. Terra giving him a potential different coverage or getting rid of its typing makes this one even more dangerous. You better watch out against this one. Swallowed, on the other hand, is low-key a goated Terra Captain. It has very good utility moves and strong abilities. It will never actually kill anyone. With access to Toxic, T-Spikes, and Yawn, it can annoy the opponent in a lot of different ways. With a stronger special type Pokemon, we think this team could be even better. It has a very obvious but effective strategy that the opponent will always have to plan for, so suddenly switching something or bringing something unexpected could give the opponent issues. It has the potential, but for now, we have ranked it into the B tier. A VDL veteran has returned to Victini with Tube and his Moss Deep City Mudkips. He has picked up Bishop, who, in our opinion, is the second strongest Eviolite user on the board. Defiant prevents people from using Intimidate, and with the many Sticky Web users, people will have to figure out if they really want to use them or not. Vileplume, Rotom, and Forstress provide some solid defensive options, and Morgrem, with Prankster, can run interference. He only has one real hazard setter, but with 3 removals, he can easily deal with any hazards the opponent will throw at him. But speaking of Forstress, and more of its weakness, we see one glaring issue. This team is weak to basically every common typing in water, electric, and fire. There are a lot of Pokemon who could easily just click their stab move into this team without having to worry. Terra Fire is basically the easiest choice for any strong and fast Terra Captain facing this team. He will need to work with Vileplume and Rotom Fan's Terra to prevent this team from getting run over. As mentioned, Rotom Fan is one of the Terra Captains. With Levitate and Terra, it can become a Pokemon without weakness when it goes to Terra Electric, even boosting its damage output. Rotoms are notoriously hard to kill, and this is not different. It has very good utility and a very strong move pool with screens and pivoting. So, a very good captain. And the other captain is no joke either. Hitmonchan would want to use Rapid Spin to make it faster, and then a combination of Terra, Iron Fist, and his elemental punches, it can become a scary Pokemon. Having the option to Terra removes common counters to it, where it can suddenly turn the matchup around, and its good coverage moves will make this mon a strong low-tier Pokemon that you will always need to be aware of. This team has some good offensive Pokemons and options, but thanks to its grueling weakness to 3 of the most common typings, it takes a heavy hit in the tier list. This will give Tube a lot of trouble while team building, what makes it easier for the opponent. Thus, we are forced to put this team into the C+ tier. And last, but not least, we have the Maryland Misfits from Meta, another new face in the VDL. We think this is a great team, a good mix of offense and defense, good speed and solid momentum. This means that you can run the team with different playstyles. Resistances, removal, hazards, pivoting all seem pretty good as well. Gligar will often act as knockoff bait, which this team has a lot of resistance against. So it might not always be a good idea to do that. While Mabosstiff with Guard Dog could make the opponent hesitant to bring Intimidate, even though there is a Paldean Boros Blaze on Meta's team. This team only has some minor issues, such as the special attackers being on the slower end, which the opponent could abuse by constantly pivoting between the resists while doing chip damage. Additionally, with Gligar, often used as hazard setter, having Defog as the only removal option might hinder its ability, especially if the opponent forces Defog by using webs or rocks themselves. Besides that, the only other thing is the negative synergy between Tauros Paldea Blaze and Floatzel, as one wants sun and the other one wants rain. Looking at the Terra Captains, we have Meganium, which could bring a lot of versatility, having a good physical move pool and decent defensive options, while being able to use the Terra to fix its bad special move pool. It might be another case where this is the only tier where this Pokemon can be good. We'll have to find out. The other captain is Corporaja. I have never seen this Pokemon in action, but looking at its move pool and its stats, I know that it will be heavily relying on its massive HP stat to do some strong damage with Sheer Force. If Meta can find the right Terra in the matches, it has a chance to take at least one Pokemon with it every time. Overall, this team has everything a great team will need. Meta has given himself a strong starting point with solid options. Now it is up to him to execute it. There's nothing more to say. This is a solid A-tier team. And this is how the tier list looks with every coach on it. We are excited to see how each team will compare to what we ranked them. Will one of the 3 C teams stand at the top without a loss? Will Nif show us how good his team is and win it all? Now, I can't wait to see how these upcoming weeks are gonna look like. Let's send it back to Cuban.
Thank you, Pangoro. Before we wrap up today's episode, let's check out our Week 1 schedule. Some of these games have already been played, but I don't want to spoil anything as they will be topic for next week's episode. This week we see the Boom Burst Backcommon facing the Tennessee Titans, both veterans of the division looking to start with a victory. We can't ignore the rivalry between these two, so it will be Match of the Week. Then we have Meta and the Maryland Misfits against CB Fries and New York Low Kicks. A new member looking to see where he will fit in the ranking, while CB Fries will be hungry for more after last season's playoff run. For our third match, we have the Scarlet Knights taking on the Titletown Tarantrums. Grixie is finally in Victini, and is here to prove himself against Pandemonium, who ended last season with a 4-4 scoreline. After this, we have the Oslo Okidogis and their coach Viking in the second season, facing off against Drakeon and his Carolina Incineroars. They didn't meet last season, so this will be their first match against each other. Another first will be the match between another new member of Victini, Lord Quall, and his team, the Denver Flareblitz, facing Victini veteran Supreme Omega with the New York Hydreigons, who has improved the last few seasons and even got to playoffs in Season 8. Then we have our mononormal type expert, Lack of Interest, and his Ottawa Ordinaries, facing off against another new face, Redshirt, and his Green Bay Pinsir. A unique first opponent here in the VDL for Redshirt, but he cannot let his guard down, as Lack of Interest is one of the dark horses to potentially win the season. Our second to last match are two very well known VDL coaches, Toop or Toopluber, how he used to be called, and his Moss Deep Mudkips, facing the Shaman division leader, Niv, and his dead droid, Driftblims. This is gonna be interesting. 2 played the Mew last season, while Niv comes from Jiachi. 2 different divisions now colliding here in Victini. And our final match of the week is our second Shaman graduate, the coach of the NC Noble Roar, they call me Gage, against Red Sox Alex and the Fighting Lando Tees. Alex had a rough season last time, only going 3-5, while Gage lost in the finals against Hina. So they will both try to start the season with a win. I'm excited to see how the season will go and who will come out on top. Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Victini News. I hope to see you all next week when we check out how week 1 went. I wish you all a good luck for your matches if they haven't happened yet. Goodbye.